and good evening, ladies and gents. Welcome back to our coverage of the Insomnia50 online qualifier day of 1 or 2. I'm Edis, joined by Pulse, and we are live into game number 2 between Perilous Rift and For the Win plextor. If you have just joined us, game number 1 went fairly comfortably in the end to For the Win plextor, with Dragon having an extremely strong Ari game. Regardless though, Pulse, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well, thank you, and I'm very excited to see the second game. The bans are roughly similar. We do have both of the junglers from last game being banned out, so lots of respect being shown towards both of these junglers. That will be Shag and Muffet, I believe.
Yep.
Am I right in saying so? Yes. And Renekton was banned in the first game, will be picked up as the first pick for Perilous Rift this time around, but For the Win plextor locking in the Vi.
Ooh, it's going to make you happy. But yeah, as you say, Muffet was the jungler from Perilous Rift, and he was playing Elise, and in actual fact, interesting enough that they would ban Elise out, because I felt Muffet had an extremely good game. I actually said this to you in the break, felt a bit sorry for him, because I don't feel there was a great deal more that Muffet could have done. He ganked lanes, he got his team kills, and tried to snowball them out of laning phase. But I feel that the difference in experience and individual skill level shone through in game number 1, Pulse, because you guys won't know this because you can't see the lobby before we get in, but FTW plextor are a challenger team, whereas the Perilous Rift guys are kind of Plat 1 / Diamond 1. So there is a bit of discrepancy in terms of individual skill here, Pulse.
Yeah, indeed, and especially when you get to kind of competitive play, individual skill is not as important as how you interact with your team synergy, but as teams, definitely I do agree there is a skill discrepancy. However, we do see Perilous Rift holding their own very well, in fact, in the last game that we saw them in. So I still think they could bring this to a third and final deciding game. They might throw a curveball. They have picked up the Annie, which could be either in the mid lane or even in support. So they're going with something a little bit different, maybe something to try and put FTW at plextor off their game.
Certainly looks the case, and they have to, because first game went to FTW plextor, and this is a best of 3, so if Perilous Rift lose this game, they are not going to be progressing on in the Insomnia50 online qualifier. They will be down and out through the quarterfinals, and FTW will be progressing. So Aatrox and Annie I assume is going to be played support, especially as it's Afro Angel that's picked that one up, and Pidgey was toying with a few mid laners last time around. He was switching between Ziggs, Victor and Syndra, so it would not surprise me if he does actually finalize that Syndra pick.
Yeah, it's very possible. I guess it's better to analyze kind of the bot lane mechanics. Has an AD carry been hovered over yet?
No, it's not. Hadao is still yet to pick anything for 15 seconds he's got left now. Syndra has been locked in, and it appears they could be going for the Ezreal.
Okay, that's interesting. Ezreal does okay against the lane of Fiddlesticks and Caitlyn, which Fiddlesticks would probably be in that support role. I feel Annie does well against that lane. I feel that also Caitlyn as a counter to Annie also works well, because she won't suffer from the long-range auto-attack harassment of Annie and should be able to outrange and possibly net out of some of the stuns, as they are somewhat slow projectiles, apart from Tibbers, which is basically instant. Ezreal should be able to hard engage on Annie's engagements, but Fiddlesticks will make that very difficult unless they nuke down Fiddlesticks.
Yeah, I feel that level 6, Annie Ezreal is going to definitely have the upper hand on Caitlyn Fiddlesticks, but before then, Caitlyn is regarded as being somewhat of a counter to Ezreal because of the range advantage that she possesses. Fiddlesticks can just kind of bully, but that being said, Pulse, like you said before, they got quite a bit of burst damage, and Fiddlesticks is known as being fairly squishy as a support character, so if they can get the stun off on Fiddlesticks, definitely watch out for the big burst damage coming in from that bot lane from Perilous Rift.
Absolutely, and in the jungle, we're probably going to have that Aatrox being brought out along with that Vi. I feel that Aatrox will... Actually, it's interesting. I still feel that Aatrox will beat Vi in a one-on-one if they come into a confrontation. There's actually very few matchups that Vi does well against in kind of a 1 versus 1 scenario. Elise is often played in the jungle and is definitely something she can't go against. I think that Aatrox also does well against Vi, but both of their ganks are fairly similar. We'll see how it goes. But the slight early game advantage will definitely go to Aatrox, because even though both of these are kind of more snowbally junglers, Aatrox can start diving turrets, which is very difficult to play against, and hello, that's Cassiopeia.
It is, and it's not a character that we've seen for quite a long time now. Cassiopeia obviously used to be played a lot in Season 1 and Season 2, but she's actually started to be mentioned a bit more in terms of Season 4, I've seen, Paul. So a few mid laners saying it could be viable Season 4. Maybe that's one of the reasons that Dragon's gone ahead and picked up the snake this time around.
Yeah, she pumps out a lot of damage. Against Syndra, it could work. I think they have roughly similar ranges, and definitely pre-6, Cassiopeia should have a small advantage. But Cassiopeia kind of suffers from being low mobility, kind of Syndra as well, but Syndra has more methods of getting out of dodge if necessary. Cassiopeia just slightly has that small speed boost, and her ultimate is very, very difficult to position.
It certainly is, but we're going to see if Dragon can rinse and repeat from that game number 1 performance with Ari. After this break, we've got 2 minutes 30 remaining delay, and right after this, you'll be live in game number 2 between For the Win Plextor and Perilous Rift. We'll see you very shortly.
Hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Insomnia50 Razor League of Legends online qualifiers with myself, Pulse, and Metas TV. How's it going?
It's going well, dude. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this game. Apologies for the delay, but the jungler Shag from FTW had some issues with his modem and had to go ahead and restart it. So that's the reason why you guys were waiting for a few extra minutes. But we are live into the game right now. Give us a bit of a chance to talk and discuss, though, in the break there, Paul. So, theory craft a tiny bit about this, but I can see that both teams are around the same area. So we could have some early aggression. And that kind of 5 versus 5 team fight kicking off soon.
Yeah, at the level 1, they can definitely check Russia's Afro Angel, not in good shape.
He has managed to get the stun off and the flash as well, so I did not see him escaping that situation, but a beautiful incinerate onto 3 or 4 members. That being said though, flash is down, and when you're against Fiddlesticks, that's never a good position to be in as a support.
Yeah, indeed, and Rumble was thinking about heading up, but thought better of it. That again could have been first blood the other way, this time's Mr. Metas, but with Annie heading on back, again as you said, slight advantage, but what all good Annies do will charge up the stun on that spawn pad before heading back into the level 1. So, well, for the win, came up with a good level 1. Picking up the flash is probably a good start.
It certainly is, because Fiddlesticks gets a good fear off, good terrify off on Annie, quite a squishy support, lots of harassment coming down from Caitlyn as well. And if they time it well, they can get the terrify and the cupcake, the trap from Crones afterwards. Going to be lots of damage, could very well signify a few early kills, but seems like we're not going to have a switch up again here, Paul, so we can actually dip into a few of those theory crafting sessions that we were going through in the break there. So I did bring it up to your attention. Syndra Cassiopeia mid, not something we see a great deal of. How do you think it's going to go?
Well, there's standard kind of like spammy skill, which is both of their Qs, are roughly the same range. In a straight-up trade, Cassiopeia is going to do more damage. And over the course of an engagement, she's going to do more damage, but it requires her to walk towards her with Twin Fang, and it makes it very easy to start landing the Force of Will for the slow, and then into Scatter the Weak. Makes it very difficult for Cassiopeia to play against, but if she flashes or jukes Scatter the Weak, she'll almost definitely pick up Pidgey if he can't get back to tower in time. Meanwhile, when you hit that level 6 stage, it gets difficult for both of the players. Their ultimates are actually very similar in range, so it's basically down who gets it first, but Vi finds himself Muffet. He's still got the passive though, kind of a bit of a love tap and just kind of backs on out.
Yeah, should be just fine, but actually Muffet undeterred by what just happened, and it's just going to be going into the opposition jungle anyway, looking for a gank at top, and in fact going to be picking up those double golems instead. Shag returning the favour, will be taking up the wraiths.
Yeah, he was aware he was going to head into his jungle in one form or another, and plus, with the wave being pushed, he wasn't going to gank top. What's the logical option? He'll be taking something from Vi's jungle. She might as well do the same thing, and wait to see if Syndra is in the worst position.
Yeah, and lots of damage being put down on Pidgey. Will he be able to escape here as the poison is ticking? Don't think it's going to be enough damage, but again, key, the flash was burned. So, with Pidgey being so low, and the flash not being available, is simply going to have to back away, Pulse. That is going to give Dragon a nice little advantage in terms of XP and also CS.
Yeah, absolutely, and that really shows the lane as well. Because he wasn't able to land the stun in the form of Scatter the Weak, that meant that Cassiopeia could continuously barrage him with Twin Fangs, and he dropped so quickly in his health bar. Bot lane Shag was looking for the potential dive, but not really low enough for that to happen, especially with Annie with the stun. Not something you want to head against this early on into the game and risk giving Snitch that double buff.
Alrighty, well, another thing that we're talking about here, Pulse, because it doesn't look like either of the junglers are going to be in the thick of the action just yet. That being said, though, Muffet is moving his way down bot, but there is a ward down here, so I'm not too sure what he's going for. Maybe coming the long way around behind this duo lane of Crons and Death Nia. Here we come. It's going to be coming around the back. They're going to look for a kill here. Blade of Torment goes down. Instant Terrify, and also the stun from Afro Angel will be forcing that flash away from Death Nia. Can they pick up this kill though? Would be first blood. Death goes in, and he will be getting taken out for the first blood, courtesy of Muffet, whose passive was procced off, and actually Crons has gone back in. Beautiful play with a 90 caliber net, and the headshot passive will be claiming the return kill and the blue buff on top of it.
Really impressive from both of those teams. Muffet took a very interesting and very solid gank path. By hopping in the ward, he went straight into the brush, so they didn't have the vision of him, went for the gank, picked up the kill, had knowledge of his passive, meant that he could flash out and then still be good to go, dropping into his passive. Then Caitlyn's mechanics came into play, and that was a 1-for-1 overall. Pidgey lands a stun onto Dragon in the mid lane, and that means that he can't carry on after. But again, it's a very difficult lane to play as Syndra, because if she misses that stun even once, she's going to die.
That really was beautiful though from Kronz, because that was perfectly calculated, Pulse. He didn't even need to burn one of his summoners, so both Flash and Barrier are still up. 90 caliber netting back in, Pilt of a Peacemaker, and then the headshot proc was just about enough damage to take down that kill. And it was really beautiful to watch, and you can see how that has actually transitioned itself into 42 CS to 19 in Caitlyn's favour, who's now going to be going back to spawn with a lot of gold to spend. So Berserker Greaves, Double Doran's Blade is looking for that harassment at the bot lane.
Yeah, both of the junglers finding themselves in the mid lane. Dragon's going to come off to the side. Even if Aatrox ganks here, he doesn't have the passive. He'll probably pop very, very quickly. The burst damage from Vi and also the ultimate available for Dragon, and the fact that Pidgey doesn't have his own ultimate, is not a fight that they really want. Vi's being a very aggressive, knowing that if they do go into a head-to-head conversation, Shaq will win this one out. Doesn't choose to go all the way, knowing that Cassiopeia can also lend her assistance.
Yep, so lots of harassment being put down, but nothing definitive has been picked up as of yet. And I said this to you in the break, that picking Ezreal after Caitlyn's already been locked in is a bit of a head scratcher for me, because Caitlyn will harass Ezreal, is known as being somewhat of a counter to Snitch. And the fact that Snitch has gone cleanse as well is very much towards the Fiddlesticks fear. As I was talking, apologies for that, didn't just miss a kill in the mid lane. As Vi's gank comes in and paying out dividends, they do take down Syndra, whose flash is still down.
There's a very weird scenario in the mid lane. Cassiopeia got knocked back during her animation, so she actually missed the ultimate. And then Syndra just assumed there was no way that she was going to aggress again. Shag flashed over the wall while still charging up the Vault Breaker, which is an interesting Vi mechanic that you can do. Knocked her back, and then he picked up the kill regardless. It was mind games to the maximum in the mid lane, basically. Muffet's going to be picking up his own respective buffs, unable to be really that aggressive, and especially without his passive. Yes, it's very good for diving in the early game, but it means you can't be as aggressive when it comes to jungle invasions and future ganks. Will be coming up fairly shortly, probably in time for the next dragon, or the first dragon engagement if it happens, when it happens, I should say.
Well, Muffet did just fire across a Blade of Torment there towards Caitlyn, but didn't connect, and Caitlyn's just going to go back into lane again. So, just going back onto the point I was raising before that kill went down in mid, Pulse. Thoughts about cleanse against this composition? Are you in favour of it? Just holding that thought for a second, there could be some action at bot lane though.
Yeah, and Aatrox is once again looking to use this gank path of jumping straight into the brush to cut the vision, but Vi looking for the counter gank. She's also got Assault and Battery if she wants to use it. They could collapse with Cassiopeia here, but it didn't look like Cassiopeia was very interested, so I guess we'll just go on to that point about cleanse. It was interesting that Ezreal decided to, pick Ezreal into a Caitlyn lane, because it's not a lane he naturally wins, and Ezreal is still taking a lot of punishment. This is exactly what we're talking about. There's not very much he can do. Caitlyn can still harass over the melee minions, meaning that he can almost never land his Q, and she can still land Piltovers and auto attacks. And you can see it right there. But the thing with cleanse is it reduces your trading potential. Yes, it's good for Terrify, but then what? Then what do you have? You need the barrier to really trade blow for blow. In the top river though, Muffet takes a lot of hits. That should surely be the kill onto Aatrox.
And Dragon coming around from the side. It's going to be one kill. Petrifying Gaze comes through as well. The Pidgey has claimed that kill in retaliation. Does get a double buffs as well. Does he have enough damage to actually claim this kill? Looks very likely. Shag is trying to run away, but red buff comes in. Auto attack will pick up the pieces. And that is a delayed double kill for Syndra. Double buffs as well. That's a big power spike for Pidgey in the mid lane.
Yeah, indeed. Even though Dragon managed to hit his ultimate, Syndra was already wailing on them when he was in his kind of Guardian Angel Bloodwell passive, meaning that, Unleash Force completely deleted Dragon, and then he could just turn his attention to Shag. I felt in that situation it was worth just going back in. I think he might have had enough burst damage with a fully charged Q onto Syndra. It's something that you don't really expect. The burst damage from Vi is a lot bigger than, a lot larger than you think it would usually be. But the flash comes in the top lane. They're looking for this gank to happen. Blades of Torment comes out and connects.
Yes, it does, and that's going to slow down Insert long enough potentially to pick up this kill. Flash comes in from Muffet as Electro Harpoon did slow him down before, and the second one as well. Is it going to be enough, actually? Yes, it will. And the Scrap Shield paying out dividends, movement speed, and on top of that absorbing a bit of damage. And again, we've seen this from FTW plextor so many times. When their top lane is under a lot of trouble, they're just going to go ahead and pick up the free dragon.
It was curious as to why Aatrox decided to go into the top lane. It was basically saying, well, we either get this kill and take the tower, which is great. Maybe we can't deal them. That's maybe what he was thinking. It's probably better to try and get that pick and then go for the tower. It's more of a risky 50-50 play, as Hadar dropping quite low, but there's nothing really to stop him or pick up the kill onto him anyway. But it was risky because Rumble is fairly decent at getting outside of ganks. I guess he thought they had two forms of CC and also the slow from Beta Torment. Didn't work out, meant they lost the dragon for nothing and they lost the bottom turret. So, all in all, not a good turnout for Perilous Rift.
Yeah, and just to go back on a point that we mentioned before about picking Ezreal into Caitlyn, I feel it's only really a viable pick if you have someone like Sona with you. I'm keeping an eye in mid here, and actually the Assault and Battery goes down. They're looking for some retaliation to make amends for that previous mistake with the double kill going to Pidgey. He's actually got in a 1v2 and claims the kill for himself, and you know, that's not a bad result there, Pulse. He had no flash from that previous engage, so going 1 for 1 in a 1 versus 2, never a bad thing.
Yeah, indeed. It's kind of one of the very interesting things about Vi ganks, but in the mid lane they're going for the kill.
Oh, beautiful Dark Flight though, making sure he didn't jump back into the Equalizer, and that is going to basically keep himself alive.
Yeah, one of the very interesting things, not about Vi ganks, but about Syndra as the gank E, I guess, is that unless you CC her and take her down before she's able to come back up again, and she's already been able to spam out some balls, especially when she's got chance, I mean she can essentially spam out balls as much as she wants, then she can just turn around and nuke someone down basically almost 100 to 0. I mean Cassiopeia was about like 80% anyway, but it means that if Vi goes in with that long distance closing Assault and Battery, then Dragon has to get in range to ult before she knocks her back with Vault Breaker. But in the bot lane, stop fear crafting because kills are coming down.
They are. Crow Storm goes down, and it's going to be a kill. And now Snitch has no tower to go back to, and is forced to go ahead and go back towards his own double golems. And again, this is the issue that you've got Annie, but if the Crow Storm comes in, if the Terrifier is utilized, Annie is way too squishy to deal with that damage coming down. And again, it's a bit of a head scratcher for me, Pulse. I know I've said this a couple times, but surely you'd go with something with a bit of CC at bot lane that was guaranteed. Surely you'd go with a bit of sustain if nothing else. I feel Sona would have been a perfect pickup to go with Ezreal against Caitlyn.
Yeah, indeed. First picking the Annie before you know what the bot lane's going to be is a little risky, and well, basically for the win, plextor just picked it perfectly, and that lane would naturally win by itself. Ezreal ultimate comes across just to clear out the wave and stymie some of this pushing power, but even with Caitlyn and the kind of long-range poke, it's already getting very difficult for Perilous Rift to deal with, and it's only 13 minutes into the game.
Yeah, I always feel that picking Annie as support is better to be left until the latter stages of the picking stage, because then you get an idea of what you're against. Annie just doesn't work against some AD carry and support bot lane duos, does work against others. I feel that Caitlyn Fiddlesticks is not one of the lanes that works against, and therefore you are seeing this very one-sided affair coming about now, where Caitlyn is by and large just free to do whatever he pleases at bot lane as Crons. However, needs to be careful though, Pulse, because Muffet and also Snitch are looking to make some plays. Snitch doesn't have a great deal of mana, however, so I'm not too sure how this is going to pay off for them. Muffet shows himself, and that's pretty much going to be the end of that.
Yep, but the top lane, the Assault and Battery comes out.
On top of the Equalizer as well, this is very difficult for Hadao to deal with, and the Flash Terrify from Fiddlesticks is going to be all she wrote for Hadao. Question, can Syndra even up the odds? Yes. And that's going to be Pidgey picking up a kill of his own. Yeah,
Unleashed Power comes through, 1-for-1 trade. And they'll take that. There's no big objective like Dragon up for another couple minutes. Annie coming into the mid lane has been warded though. Dragon just needs to juke downwards and either walk back to his turret or just walk into the South River, and there's not very much they can do about it. He's walking towards Afro Angel though, but Miasma comes down and might have been baiting it out though. What comes out, he's looking for the Terrifier, not quite able to get there in time.
Yeah, so Annie is going to be rejoining mid. Afro Angel does have the Pyromania, which is the passive. You can see the wind going around the side there. And that indicates my next abilities will stun if they land. So definitely one to watch out for if you're seeing Annie running around like that, Paul. You don't really want to be too close.
Absolutely. So for the next team fight, I definitely feel that for the win plextor, not only are they ahead, but they have a slightly better team fighting composition. Right now, Renekton probably offers a little more, but Equalizer, if the Equalizer comes in and it's well placed, especially in like a jungle environment, that's going to hurt a lot more than like a Renekton just kind of sitting and using his dominance and having that overtime damage. And I feel that's like that type of team fight will benefit for the win plextor a lot more than a Renekton will.
I'm just curious how Kronz is going to be building Caitlyn here. That Brawler's Gloves, I would assume it may be going into Avarice Blade into... in fact, hold the thought, never mind, because fights are kicking off in mid again. Nice ultimate this time. Tivers will be cancelling a lot of the damage that was planned there from Dragon, but Afro Angel is all that remains of the mid lane now. Will be getting picked up for that double kill. Here comes Aatrox from the side, but actually jumping in to such a precarious position. It's already been 2 kills. Is it going to turn out to be 3? Assault and Battery behind the tower. Indeed, will go into that 3rd kill. And here comes a very angry Crocodile. Hadou's going to try his best to pick up the pieces from a crumbled team. Equalizer goes down, not looking too good with the poisons. It actually will not be taking out Renekton, and will be taking down Caitlyn himself. And in the meantime, Snitch finally gets into play. So for all the hell breaking loose, actually was pretty even overall, Pulse.
Yeah, 4 for 3, and it went in favour of Perilous Rift. One of the best scenarios they could possibly hope for, honestly, because it wasn't a 5-on-5 engagement. For the win, plextor didn't, straight up come out ahead. At the same time, Perilous Rift were able to just get players in better positions, and the people who turned up at the right times could win against the champions that were already there. So they did come out ahead. 1 kill is nothing major, and... well, I thought they were going to go for Dragon. I was going to say that was pretty risky, but Dragon will be the next point of contention for both of these teams.
It will. Cassiopeia is lagging a tiny bit behind of the rest of the team, but I think they can hold down the fort until Dragon gets down there. Quite confusing. Dragon and they're going for Dragon, so it can be a bit of a head scratcher there, but they have started off on the Drake here. Have Perilous Rift. Here comes Cassiopeia from the side. A bit late to the party though, but that's not a very quick Dragon clear from the Rift, and that is going to be Ace in the Hole coming through onto Muffet, who is very low right now. The passive was burned last time around, goes in with the engage, but not a great deal of follow-up damage. Afro Angel and Ezreal from the back, however, here comes a Crow Storm from Fiddlesticks. Will be terrifying opponents. They try their best to run away. Syndra's damage, though, is so huge, but in doing so, only picks up the kill onto the support. Definitely not the focus they were looking for. And now this could turn itself into a kill for Dragon, as the poison goes down is going to be enough. And that's a 4 for 2 trade at the end. Still a bit of a confusion why Syndra would ult down Fiddlesticks.
Yeah, it was probably like, there's a squishy target, I'll kill them. And yes, it will be, well, a 4 versus 5 for the most part. That's a massive cooldown, and one of your big team fighting cooldowns utilized on the support. It meant that they, well, didn't have the ultimate for someone who was higher priority, and it's funny because in that team fight, basically everyone had the ultimate on cooldown because we had the fight so soon off the back of that fight in the mid lane. So it was basically down to whose kind of sustained damage is stronger, and that really just goes to Cassiopeia. Even though she is split from the team, they went for the team fight, they collapsed on them, and Cassiopeia was just sitting in there in the brush, constantly throwing out those twin fangs and just decimating anyone who came near her.
I almost get the kind of feeling that I nearly said Peculiar Rift, that would have been a strange one. Perilous Rift overestimated their Dragon clear because Muffet was so low, was forced to Dark Descent, I should say.
Nice England, bro.
Dark Flight. It's all about the English, isn't it? Apparently I can't speak it anymore. As a caster, that's kind of a requirement. But he jumped in really low health, is what I'm trying to say, and instantly got popped without the passive. And from there on in, it was just a 4 versus 5. So I'm not too sure. I think maybe calling that Dragon was a bit too antsy, a bit too aggressive.
Yeah, it made sense because those big ultimates were down, and those ultimates are really good in small environments like Dragon Pit, because you can layer Equalizer on top of like Assault and Battery into Petrifying Gaze, and it's so much damage, even without the Fiddlesticks Crow Storm. So with that down, they had a better chance at team fighting, and it was kind of like, well, we try and take this opportunity while we have it, or we just wait for a bit and then they have the ultimates and we're going to lose regardless. So it was kind of a risk play, but a calculated risk that just didn't work out.
Someone just messaged me, you can no speak Inglando. It's true. Guilty as charged.
Was that
But
Ralphin? It sounded like Ralphin.
it actually wasn't, which I'm surprised, but Crowstorm comes in alongside the equalizer, and that's going to be Pidgey, who's taking the brunt of all this damage. The most fed player on Perilous Rift side as well. That's such an integral pickup for FTW, and with 33 seconds, they're going to be looking to capitalize upon this weakness, upon that brief gasp in the armor. And yeah, they're going to be pushing down this mid lane, clearing the wave out. Kind of poor positioning from Pidgey. When you're against Fiddlesticks, you have to assume, you have to anticipate those engages coming through.
Yeah, indeed, and that's really going to hurt them. It's not something they could transition into a Baron, but losing one of your key players like Syndra, especially as you said before, Meta's the one who is most fed on their team, it's quite scary, but the Tibbet comes in.
It does. They're looking to engage, but they just simply don't have a great deal of follow-up damage. That being said, though, the Arcane Shift into Mystic shot from Ezreal is very nearly enough damage to pick up Dragon. However, did have Seraph's Embrace available, so I don't think it would have been quite enough. But they're doing their best to force back Cassiopeia and to pick up this mid tower. In the meantime, though, look at top lane. Crons and Shag trying to push down this tower themselves. Two separate fights about to kick off, you have to feel. Syndra is very strong, so should be able to repel the invaders at the top lane, while the rest of his team forces down mid.
Yeah, but Cassiopeia is still alive, and that's so important. Her wave clear is probably one of the best of any mid laner. Miasma goes down into the Noxious Blast, and that's all you really need to keep the minions back. But we did have Caitlyn and Vi in the top lane on the case, but Pidgey still had his, actually had his Unleashed Power come off cooldown, and wasn't enough to nuke down Caitlyn and force them both back. So, mid tower goes down, small advances to Perilous Rift.
On the case, indeed. Aren't they supposed to be rivals?
No, they're part of the same police force, dude.
Are they? Oh, okay then. I knew they had some kind of relationship, the two of them. I think, is it Vi that shouts boom headshot whenever Ace in the Hole comes through?
It is indeed, but we have the Terrify coming into the mid lane.
Yes, we do. There are more pressing matters, and that's Pidgey getting crushed again alongside Hadao, is going to be slicing and dicing away. And here comes the Vault Breaker, however, does land on the backside. Terrify as well. Hadao does pop Dominus, but too little too late from his perspective. Will be going down for the Rampage for Cassiopeia. Has slithered her way to 5-3. Hasn't had as much impact as that first game pulse, but slow and steady wins the race.
Absolutely, and now 22 minutes into the game, and FTW plextor in very good shape. They have a very good Baron taking team. Cassiopeia means you can nuke that down so quickly. Already down to 50% HP, and Muffet, this is his time to shine. Can he do it?
Well, if ever there was a time for him to make plays, was then, but it's not going to happen. Goes in with Dark Flight, flashes out again with his head down in shame, and now the rest of the fight is going to be kicking off as Afro Angel will be picked up from that Ace in the Hole. Meanwhile, actually, Deathnear is trying to 1 versus 1 Muffet, and you know, is probably strong enough to do so once that Terrify and the Drain come down. The Life Drain, it does have the Cavalry in from Crons and also Vi. They will be taking down that kill comfortably, and they got Baron on top of it. It's just not looking good for Perilous Rift.
Yeah, Fiddlestick's objective right there was just to stop him from recalling, and Terrify was enough to make sure that he couldn't kill him, at least in the short term until its team caught up, and then he just picked up the kill. So, Baron comes out, it's not looking good, Metas, 7k behind. Perilous Rift are going to have to pull something amazing. Their team fight is just not as strong, their picking potential is not as strong as their first game either. It's just not looking good all over the board, no matter how you look at it.
Yeah, and although Syndra, you know, Pidgey was looking like he could finally evolve. It's been 2 games in the making. Still not Pidgeotto, still not landing the wing attacks. If anyone played Pokemon, they know what I'm talking about. If you don't, that's completely lost on you. But regardless, he was very fed early game, but now it's just not really up to par in terms of damage. Renekton is pretty squishy. Only the Spirit Visage, which is a really good item, but it's pretty much all that he has in his back pocket. And when you look at those items from Caitlyn, it's going to be shredding through everybody. I was curious what kind of build he was going for. Indeed, it is a static shiv on top of the IE. So in terms of raw damage pulse, there's only going to be one victor here.
Yeah, and in the mid-game, Static Shiv, well, increases not only the wave clear, but increases the burst. Shag looking for a pick onto either one of these players. Either one of these players would be a good pick. Hadao taking huge amounts of damage from Crons as well.
Oh, but maybe Syndra can make some plays. Equalizer comes down. That's absolutely beautiful. That's not just going to alleviate the pressure off the AD carry, but crush down all the foes on top of that. Shag will be flashing up red, but they simply don't care. They've already got 2 picks, could very well turn into 3, as Pidgey is extremely close to death. And now we're going to see all the damage from Caitlyn coming about. pushed back from Scatter the Weak. Can they pick up the kill with the ultimate? No, they can't. Caitlyn takes down one, very nearly the second. And still, you have to feel the damage has been done. 3 for 1 trade, but they're very healthy. They have the Baron buff, and they can push down this mid tower if they so choose.
Yeah, Dragon's going to make it very, very difficult for either of these players to get anywhere near. Terrify comes out, not going to be quite enough to go all the way into their base. But Tower comes out, and they pick up the Dragon simultaneously in the form of Shag. Not going to be offering too much of that siege situation, but definitely can take that Dragon objective.
And they're actually going for another one here. This could prove to be somewhat of a downfall, but now they have enough in terms of CC, the slows from the Electro Harpoon, and also from the Miasma from Cassiopeia are going to prove to be too much. I was just a bit worried there if they stuck around too long, Pulse, which is a pitfall that a lot of teams do actually fall for, where they kind of stay around too long, greedy for objectives, and end up getting aced as a result.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that kind of overstaying mentality, but they didn't luckily fall into it and were back on off, taking advantage after advantage, not really losing anything in return, but they might lose themselves a Cassiopeia, or it could be Muffet who's falling, Miasma comes down, but oh, Dragon not quite in a good situation. His ultimate's up very shortly though.
Oh dear, I'm not too sure the ult's going to be enough. Petrifying Gaze does come through, but the Seraph's Embrace not going to quite be enough. Does get another kill though, so 1 for 1 trade and a 4 versus 1, not too shabby.
Not at all, and did a lot of damage to those players as well, so now it comes into this fight, there's nothing they can really do, they can't trade off against this.
Oh, that is a nice Tibbers, but it's just not going to be enough to stop this onslaught, because Renekton's already flashing up, so is Afro Angel, and they're just doing the job. Yes, they're not getting kills, but they're picking up objectives, and it's objectives that win you games. So that is going to be the 5th tower coming down. Shag is just so tanky right now that he is taking damage point blank from 3 characters. Crowstorm through, double kill for Caitlyn, could very well escalate into a triple kill, but Snitch will be flashing away. Ruthless Predator in from Renekton. He's trying to do the damage right now, but he is outnumbered and outgunned, chasing after Caitlyn. Good guy Fiddlesticks tanks the tower up and escapes. Beautiful play from Deathnia. Seems like such a simple thing to do, but to have the clarity to do that in the fray of a big team fight kicking off is just really, really good to watch.
Yeah, could not have put that better myself, Metas. It was so perfect. And your ultimate weaves in between everyone. Oh man, but oh, it looks like Insert could still be picked up, but Electro Harpoon makes it very difficult to follow him down. Meanwhile, Dragon, so much damage.
Should be able to take this kill down, although Massacre does come through, gets quite a lot of lifesteal from Muffet. He's going to be respawning in the middle of a Fed Rumble and Dragon, and does find himself 6 foot under for 35 seconds. Again though, I have to give massive props to that Fiddlesticks play. Definitely have played that one to perfection, and maybe he should have had Striker Ezreal on the field, because he just scored a goal.
Oh, Meta's bringing out the plays. But anyway, Vi is in the jungle, finding himself Pidgey. Pidgey, even if he did find him and had that warded, not sure that Unleash Power would have done enough damage, even to bring Vi down to 50% HP. Dragon not quite getting caught, and in the meanwhile has the sustained damage. Unleash Power comes down.
Ooh, that is brutal. Both mid laners go down. Ezreal picks up the kill, however, onto Cassiopeia. Equalizer and Terrify again, and that's going to be a very dead Annie. Gets pushed back onto the Equalizer there from Vi's ult, I believe that was. Now chasing after Snitch. Bladed Torment comes through. Here's the cleanse from Snitch, but it's just not going to be enough, and that's the trouble. Triple kill goes in for Caitlyn. Hungry for that Quadra. No passive remaining on the Aatrox. Is it going to be enough? Yes, it is. And he gets his 4th kill in this engage to go 13-2.
Indeed, extremely classy ace as they take down another Nexus, or I should say inhibitor turret, but soon to be the Nexus turret, and indeed the Nexus itself. Another 6 seconds on Pidgey. In fact, the surrender vote comes in, and that will be for the win. Plextor picking up this series 2-0.
It will, and very confidently done as well. Perilous Rift tried their best, Pulse. You know, they did make some big plays. I think Muffet was, especially in that first game, extremely good, extremely prevalent across the map, but just wasn't enough to pick his team up the victory. I think at the end of the day, the better team shone through today, and for the win, definitely deserved this victory.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, for a Plat 1 team against a Challenger team, Perilous Rift did unbelievably well, but it looks like for the win as an organisation, are very good against Perilous teams. There's one more left in the tournament, I believe. We'll see if they can take them down as well. But that will be the end of the first day of the Insomnia50 Razor League of Legends online qualifiers. But tune in tomorrow. We'll have the semi-finals and finals still to go, with Team Dignitas and Infused in the upper bracket, and things Digger does against For the Win Esports plextor that we just saw progress into the semi-finals tomorrow.
Yes, indeed. You can have the same casters, the same production crew for tomorrow. So if you've enjoyed the casting, if you've enjoyed the stream today, ladies and gents, it's going to be more of the same. You're going to have Spuddington, Nature, myself, which is I think he said myself, which is Pulse. Nice one. I'm actually Metis, and the guy alongside me is Pulse. We've casted so much together, we're almost the same person, Pulse. I think that's the way I'm feeling. It is. That's slightly... That's a bit creepy, actually. Maybe we should just change subject.
Yeah, let's get away from the topic, shall we? But social media metas, I mean, where can they find you? Or possibly me as well?
Well, you can find me at Impulsible, and you can find Pulse at Metis TV if you liked our casting. You can also find Ruben, who is our producer, who is our streamer, who's always in the background, but doing so much work. Ruben, what is your Twitter so that I can pass it on? Because I believe it's Ruben TV? Rauben TV. Sorry, I call him Ruben because it's his actual name, but his gaming name is Rauben, which is in the chat right there. He is our producer, and I think that's going to do it for us. Do we have reruns coming up? No, we do not. However, I've just remembered another thing that I should be announcing. If you play Battlefield 4, and you are interested in playing with myself, Ruben, and some more of the casters and the crew here at Chaos TV, Chaos TV actually has their own Battlefield 4 server now up. You're going to see that in the chat right now. If you'd like to help us fill the server up, because we just got it yesterday, we would be in your debt. So again, you like Battlefield 4, you want to play with us, there you go, in the chat, and you can be playing alongside your favourite casters, potentially.
Yes, indeed, but honestly, I think that's everything we could possibly say, Meta. So from us, the casters, and Ralvin, and everyone at the Chaos TV production, have a great day, and we will see you tomorrow.